So maybe like me, you've tried to set up plants indoors, but it's hard to know if you're watering them too little or too much, and if you can get them enough direct sunlight. Well, the Edn Small Garden seeks to solve this with some smart technology, and the results were both a lot better and a little bit worse than I expected, but best of all, it works with Apple Home. I'm Eric Welander. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, we talk all about Apple and smart home tech, so if you're into either of those things, consider subscribing. And speaking of subscribing, thanks for supporting my channel because I purchased this garden myself thanks to you. So give this video an old green thumbs up, and that supports this video and the channel. Now, I work here in a home office most of the day with the door closed to keep the cats and the kids out of my workspace. And while it does have ventilation, if I'm in here the whole day, I can kind of feel what I think are the CO2 levels getting a little bit high just from me breathing the air, and I would get headaches towards the end of the day. So I started to add potted plants in here to take away some of that CO2, and that definitely helped. But it's always a struggle to know which plants work well and if I'm getting them enough sunlight, as well as if I'm watering them too much or too little. And the Edn helps solve those problems with some smart technology, both to supply lighting to the plants with a light right above the garden, as well as a water meter to tell you what the level of water is. And you can check all of that in their mobile app. Now, in the box, you get the garden unit itself, as well as a power supply, as well as some basil seed pods. Now, what's a seed pod, you might ask? Seed pods are these pre-packaged containers of both the soil and the seeds for a specific plant that come from Edn. Now, these go in the 10 plastic container spots for each plant in the garden. Now, you can grow a mix of different seed pods or all of the same at the same time, like I chose to do. And there's nothing stopping you from filling these containers with your own soil and your own seeds, but to me, and what I'm trying to do, that kind of implies a level of knowledge about gardening that you probably don't need all the hand-holding of this product. But for me, this was the perfect option because I would have no idea which seeds to pick and how many to plant in each pod and maybe the ideal kinds of soil, etc. But of course, there's a subscription in 2024 for seed pods, and we'll get into that in a little bit because there are multiple ways to slice this that I think still come out to be a good deal. Now, setup was very straightforward in one way for the Edn, and then also a little bit tricky with my Wi-Fi. I'll explain how I solved that in a minute. You also want to add initial amount of water during the setup process, which you pour through a little vent in the side of the container. And that gets me to the Apple Home integration. You can add the light at the top of this garden, which acts like the sun for your plants, into Apple Home. Now, when I tried to get it on my Wi-Fi, the garden was failing to connect. It seemed like it was getting online, but my phone then wasn't seeing it. And one of the things I tried that was recommended with some research online was to make sure that both my phone and the Edn Smart Garden are on 2.4 gigahertz, but my phone was going over to other frequencies. And what I've done is I actually, for these kinds of cases, made a specific Wi-Fi network in my home that just does 2.4 gigahertz. Use that connection on your phone, and then I restarted the setup process in the Edn app, and everything worked perfectly. So you might not hit these same issues, but if you do, just keep in mind that that 2.4 gigahertz spectrum is something to keep in mind here during the setup process. And this is great just to have another way to control the Edn Smart Garden light. If I need to turn it off for whatever reason in my office, maybe I'm filming or something, and I don't want to have the light on, I can certainly make that part of any kind of scene. But by default, when you set up the Smart Garden, it's going to keep that light on a schedule, so it sort of simulates the sun and comes out at a particular time of day and goes away at another time of day. So with that, though, you want to be careful if you add it to Apple Home which room you put it in, because if you just ask your HomePod or other versions of Siri to turn off all the lights, then it's gonna turn off the Edn garden light as well, and then your plants won't get their sunlight. You want to be mindful of trying to keep it on the plant schedule, which may or may not fit with the lighting of your own schedule. And Edn recommends you keep this light on for 12 to 16 hours a day. And the light is very bright. Now, mine is scheduled to go 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. and it's far away from my bedroom, so I don't have to worry about that for interrupting sleep. But if it would be for you, that's another thing to keep in mind of whatever times you want to have it on. It's probably not when you're sleeping. Another thing to keep in mind with the light is you want to keep an eye on how much sunlight you actually get in that area from the sun, because if you're in a basement like me and don't get a lot of light where the garden is, then you're probably going to want to put the light on for more than 12 hours a day, which is the default out of the box. So I ended up extending the time it's on from 12 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that really accelerated the growth of the plants I have in the garden, because previously they weren't really keeping up with the pace that Edn set as where it thinks my plant should be at a particular time. Now, that is a great feature of the mobile app, is that you can go in the mobile app and not only see whether your light's on and adjust the lighting schedule, you can also go in and see the water level, so you know when you need to water the plants and you can get notifications about that, as well as the progress of the plants in their life before they'll really at a certain point get too big for the garden and you need to prune them, use them for food or whatever, or then transplant them to an outdoor garden where they can grow bigger. But the fact that my plants weren't staying on pace with what Edn suggested at first made me concerned about the concept of a subscription, because the Edn Seed Pod subscription automatically reorders you new seed pods when Edn thinks you'll need them based on the amount of time you've had since you planted the last one. And that just seems like it might not work out if, for example, my growing pace is a little bit slower than what Edn expects, then I'm going to be getting more seed pods than I actually need. Now, you don't have to go with the subscription to use it. If you do use the subscription, then it's $20 for a set of 10 seed pods as opposed to $30, and then you also get free shipping. Now, when you purchase the small garden up front, you can, for an additional $40, add in 3 sets of seed pods with different focuses on lettuce or flowers or combinations of both. And so that's what I did with getting a bunch of different flowers. So I have plenty of seed pods for the time being. I'm not going to do the subscription, and we'll see down the road if I decide to go that direction. But so is the Edn Small Garden worth it for your smart home? Well, if you are like me and you don't know a ton about gardening, or you want to grow plants in an area that doesn't get a lot of natural light, this garden makes that very straightforward and easy. I love that I know when I need to water the plants. Over about the 6 weeks that I've had the plants so far, I've only had to water it, I'd say, about 3 times. So it's great as well if maybe you're traveling. You'll know if you can top up the plants with water before you leave or when you get back. But potentially needing to have that light on so much, well, with modern day LEDs, it probably doesn't use that much energy. It's still going to be an extra light in your home, which might distract from things like sleeping or otherwise that you might not like. Also, this whole seed pod concept, well, it's great in one sense because it holds your hand and helps you get the right plants set up. It's also kind of an expensive thing, which is way more expensive than just getting some potting soil and some plants from your local store. And the company lists the price on their website for the small garden in certain places as $300, which then discounted down to $200. And I don't know if I would consider it worth it for $300 at the time of recording this video, but $200, which is what it cost me, makes sense. So while the costs are high, if you've struggled to find a way to integrate indoor plants into your life, this could be a way to make it very easy. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. It really does help the channel. Subscribe if you aren't already. Thanks again so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next YouTube video that is here on the screen.